Welcome back. Now this, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst calling out the Biden administration for ignoring questions and doubling down on its plan to welcome refugees from Gaza into the United States. The White House says it has already helped more than 1,800 people leave Gaza, with many of them coming here to the U.S. The State Department responding to a letter from Senator Ernst about its plans for refugees, claiming, quote, any individuals from Gaza who have traveled or would travel to the United States are thoroughly vetted, as the safety and security of the American people is our top priority. Joining me now is the woman herself, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. She's the ranking member of the Senate Small Business Committee and the member of the Senate Armed Services and Agricultural Committees. Senator, what do you make of that response to your letter? They say that the safety of American citizens is their #1 priority, yet the actions don't prove that, given the wide open border.
Exactly, Maria, and thank you for having me. We have heard from the administration that they want to bring thousands and thousands of people from Gaza into the United States, and this simply doesn't make sense to me. If we look back to Afghanistan, the fall of Afghanistan, we saw that we were supposedly vetting a number of these Afghans before they were allowed into the United States. But in investigations since then, we have seen horrible failures with that vetting process. To take people that have been displaced and allow them to come into the United States, I think is a fool's errand, and it does risk our national security. So there are a number of countries that are much closer to Israel, where these Gazans could be evacuated to if we are truly concerned about their safety. The State Department should be working with those other Arab nations that would potentially allow these Gazans to enter. So I am concerned about our national security, and this makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean, the State Department says that anyone who travels here is getting vetted thoroughly. They use that word, thoroughly. Do you have any idea how the vetting process is taking place? What they're vetting? No,
Maria, and they have not come to brief us on this in Congress. So I think the president has just thrown this idea out there. He is, of course, approaching a very difficult general election, and perhaps this will appease some of those folks that are Hamas supporters, those folks on the very far left, and bring them into his camp. But again, we are risking our own national security by bringing these folks in. And until they explain how they are going to vet these people, we should not allow them to enter into the United States.
Here's Brian Brenberg.
Senator, what scares me about this is you said we've already gotten 1,800 refugees into the country. That's before you wrote the letter. So the process is already in motion. And if you wouldn't have picked up on it, nobody would have picked up on it, which tells me it's probably more than 1,800, and it's probably happening in ways that we don't even know. How do we get a handle on an administrative state that does what it wants when it wants, and it doesn't want anybody to find out about it?
I mean, that's all there is to it. You look at our southern border, just as Maria pointed out, we have people that are pouring into this country that are not vetted. There are millions, over 10 million people that have illegally crossed into the United States. So do I think that the State Department is thoroughly vetting these people coming from Gaza? No, I don't believe it. I think the goal is just to admit as many people as possible, do it under the dark of night, and call it an end.
Why?
But we can't allow that to happen.
But why? What's the goal?
Well, that's a good question. You would have to ask the Biden administration. I think we can speculate all day long. As I've pointed out, I do think it's about appeasement of the very far left. You know, you look at the campus protests. Where was the president on any of that? I think he's doing this to appease all of those far, far left liberal voters that are out there openly supporting Hamas.
Meanwhile, Israeli tanks reaching the center of Rafah for the first time yesterday as the Israeli military expands its operation there. The White House says the Israeli airstrikes that killed dozens of civilians and 2 senior Hamas leaders in Rafah over the weekend was a tragedy, but it did not cross the administration's red line that would lead to a change in U.S. policy. Watch this.
Can you explain how the strike in Rafah does not cross the lines that the president has set and many of you have repeated that the operations be targeted and limited.
We still don't believe that a major ground operation in Rafah is warranted. We still don't want to see the Israelis, as we say, smash into Rafah with large units over large pieces of territory. We still believe that, and we haven't seen that at this point. But we're going to be watching this, of course, very, very closely.
Yeah, they're watching it closely, Senator. But New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is claiming that Israel's Rafah attack was done in open defiance of Biden's red line. She's calling for the president to suspend all military aid to Israel right now, Senator. And we know that already the Biden administration held back weapons.
Yes, and this is a concern to me, is that here we are as the United States of America dictating to another country how they are going to defeat terrorists. I certainly would be adamantly opposed if another country came and told the United States of America how we should defeat terrorists. And Israel has a right to exist. And we know that they will always be threatened as long as there is a thread of Hamas remaining. So I think the president needs to back off of this. But again, here he is just allowing the far left to dictate to him what he says and does in support or not in support of Israel. We need a new president, and we need a president that will support Israel and their right to exist.
Yeah, Emily, jump in here.
Yeah, Senator, I'm just curious if when you look at the Biden administration's response here, if you see some failings in our ability to get the military where it needs to be with the Gaza pier situation. Do you think that was a failing on part of the administration, or is it bad policy, or is it the military not being prepared?
Well, I think our military is always prepared. God bless them. We have the best servicemen and women anywhere in the globe, and they will strive to do the best they can with whatever task they are given. Unfortunately, this was a fool's errand. The president, of course, wants to deliver humanitarian aid into Gaza. While that is noble, we know that as that aid is delivered, it is going to be taken by Hamas. It will not get to the Palestinians that are most vulnerable. It will not get to the Palestinians, those women and children. We know Hamas is taking it. So I think this was an outward projection by this very weak president to try and once again show the far left that he has a heart. But unfortunately, we know the realities of war. And in war, those that are strong are going to take from the weak. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they will continue to prey on innocent Palestinians. And that means taking everything the Palestinians need for themselves.
Senator, you're the ranking member of the Small Business Committee. 1 in 4 small businesses in the United States fail within their first year of operation, according to a new lending tree analysis from the Labor Department. There are more than 33 million small businesses in the United States, but Americans may be less likely to buy their goods and services under the squeeze of inflation. What can you do for small business in the face of all of these new rules and regulations out of the Biden administration's climate change agenda?
Yes, this is very tough, Maria. And again, our small businesses really are the backbone of rural economies. Like in Iowa, you look to other states. Here in Iowa, over 98% of the employees in the state are employed by small businesses. But they are feeling the squeeze of regulation from the federal government. Federal government has got to back off. And again, this will not change until we have a new administration. When President Trump comes in, you will once again see the strength of small business across the United States of America.
So I guess you have optimism about the results of this trial.
Well, I do. The trial is a farce. I think people see that all across the United States of America. I'm out doing county tours in Iowa, and I hear from them all the time just how ridiculous this is. It makes people want to support President Trump even more.
All right. We will leave it there and be watching all the developments. Senator, good to see you. Thank you. Joni Ernst joining us this morning.